Welcome to the Sunday Night Chat. I'm Mike. I didn't do a whole lot this week. I mean, I worked on the van a little bit, so I guess I don't have to talk about me, really. Let's talk about some of the current events real quick, because it's kind of nuts what's going on. You guys know this is not really a political channel, but a lot of you seem like you like to hear what I think about these different topics. So, this Epstein thing, huh? Woo! Woo! First of all, it's a one thing. It's a one issue. There's so many things that have been going on that are positive. You got to keep things in perspective here. Um, None of us are happy about the way things are going down right now. Everybody's calling for Pam Bondi's head. Everybody's saying that Bongino's going to quit, and maybe he has already. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Mm. Um, and yesterday, Trump came out. He put a pretty lengthy statement on Truth Social. I don't like it. I don't like that he did it. I don't think he should have done it, but I get it. I understand it. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't think it has anything to do with him trying to protect himself. There are some pictures out there from public events from a long time ago, multi-decades ago, where there's pictures where you see Trump and Epstein in the same picture. But those are public events. I don't think there's any evidence that Trump was ever on the island or ever was on his plane. He's got his own plane, and has had for a long time. So, and we know that he once he found out what a creep Epstein was, he actually had him banned from his club. You guys know more about this than I do. I don't care about it that much. What I do care about is what we know about. And this is the thing. This is the important thing. It's not about, I'm basically rehashing what you hear already. For us, it's not so much about the child porn and all that. Yes, I think it would be great to, punish the people, so to speak, that engage in these activities with underage people. I don't know how underage they are. I'm not condoning any of it. But if some of these gals are 14 to 16 years old, that's 14's pretty young. 16, I mean, by 16 we were all fucking, So it's a weird thing for me. Not condoning it. I don't know the whole story with that. I'm just saying, but yes, 100% go after him. Here's the thing: it ain't gonna happen. The list thing is never gonna. I don't think it'll ever be revealed because the reality is, and Epstein's just one of many. I think that there's dozens of guys, and very similar to, I think P. Diddy could be one of them. All right. So people who have access to rich and powerful people, uh, this is an operation, right? We know the ties with Mossad, through Ghislaine Maxwell, whatever the hell her name is. We all know this whole thing. If there's nothing there, why is she in prison? So there's a whole bunch of shit that doesn't add up here. So we know that they're lying. I think that Bongino and Patel lied. I think maybe evidence was given to them and presented to them in a way to where it was not a lie for them to say what they said. But body language and facial expression and everything else, just my own opinion. I'm not getting this from any other body language channel or anything. Just I see it. Tells me that even though they said what they said, I don't think they really believed what they said. But they were probably given the evidence to make it seem to them that what they were saying is the truth. It's a game there that everybody's playing. And the bottom line here is that this is intel, this is psyops, this is espionage. This is the thing. This is what governments do. And they use leverage against people and they blackmail them because of their behavior. And that's what this is really all about. And I did hear, like, O'Reilly apparently told somebody that he had talked to Trump a while ago about it. And Trump says, look, if this was all to come out, there's a lot of relatively, I don't know if he used that word, innocent people who had nothing to do with the sex stuff. But their names will be revealed with all this other stuff, with these other people doing bad things, guilt by association. That's the whole thing with Trump, right? We get that. So that is a problem. But I don't think any of us really care about that so much. I think the problem is, and what he is glossing over, and what a lot of the talking heads out there aren't speaking to, is that we just want to drain the swamp. We want to see an end to this corruption and this manipulation of facts and truth. We want this done with. We just want honesty, you know, warts and all. Just tell us what the truth is about everything. I think we can handle it now. I think we can handle it. But because there's so many people still in government, many of whom elected, there's 535 people, I believe that those are elected positions that run the country. But then there's thousands of unelected bureaucrats and everything else still, and many of whom, you know, are on this other side, or it doesn't matter what side they're on politically, whether it's the right or the left or in the middle. None of that matters. A lot of them are corrupted, have been. And so, you know, in small ways, a lot of them were just bribed. A lot of them took money they shouldn't have taken. A lot of them got information so they can make money in the stock markets. All that stuff has been going on for a long time, and it needs to stop. So that's just where we're at with this whole thing. That's the bottom line with it. You know, I don't like it. I don't like what Trump did there in this particular case, where what he's doing with his language, he's using his influence and power to try to direct anybody that's on his side to support that narrative, right? So if you're a full-on MAGA supporter or whatever, you'd be like, that's what Trump wants. Okay, let's just repeat what he said, because that's what the media has been doing. See, that's what the media's been taking their talking points from that sort of rhetoric coming from the left forever, right? Important politicians come out, left-wingers, they say things in a certain way. Well, the media picks up on that narrative and then supports it, because that's their guy. That's the guy they put in. That's what Trump's trying to do. He's making a mistake with that, because he should know we don't care about this shit. We see it. We can see through what you just are attempting to do there, man. So knock it off. He could turn this around on a dime. That's the thing about Trump. You can't predict anything he's going to do. He could wake up tomorrow morning and be, you know what? Screw it. I put this out. This is how I truly feel. I don't think it's that big of a deal. He's a scumbag. We got more important things to do. I mean, a year ago this week, somebody shot me in the head, man. You know, look where we've come since then. So he's got great points on that. But he could also say, here's the deal. This is what this guy was involved in. These agencies aren't ever going to release this stuff. He was a corrupt person. He was a tool used by CIA, Mossad, whatever other agencies, to get close to these people, get them on this island, get them doing all kinds of things. They should probably, a lot of these guys are married, right? They don't want their wives to know, which I don't understand, by the way. Let's just segue now away off of this, because I don't care about this all that much. I just don't like that they're not telling the truth. And by the way, I haven't seen Pam Bondi lately. I remember when she first appeared, but the last time I saw her talking was like last week or something. And there was something about her look that threw me off. Like, she looked way more emaciated, like thinner than normal. And I think it's affecting her. I think that this position, and this is the thing, this is what happens to all politicians, I think, to a certain degree. She's not a politician, but hear me out on this. I think a lot of people get into it to do good. And then they get there and they realize they can't get anything done unless they play along. And when that realization hits them, and then they realize they're in this game where, especially if they're new, they learn they got to spend most of their time on the phone trying to raise money for their next election to make sure they can keep the position, instead of doing the work that they were elected to do. I think that that's a big one, and I think that the corruption gets to them. I think they go to these parties and people are like, hey, you know, remember The Graduate, plastics, you know, like, they're hearing all this stuff. They're getting this information. They see how it can make their life better. They see how these people are doing it. They realize there's people who've been doing it for decades and they've never, you know, a lot of them, some of them have been busted. Some of them have spent time in jail. Some of them have had to resign. You see it in the news and then it goes away. You don't hear about it anymore. Most of the time, it's like a slap on the wrist. So it becomes like not a big deal, and that starts getting into their head. I think Dan Crenshaw is a perfect example of this. A guy who went in there wanting to do good and then kind of got corrupted a little bit. We're only human, okay? And I think I see that in her too, the Bondi chick. So now I forgot what I was going to segue into there. I did look at the watch. So, by the way, I'm going to be doing a video on this. Here's another band. This watch, it's the Seiko Turtle. It's the one my buddy got me. I got from him in trade. It was all beat up. I put a new crystal on it already. There's a new movement going in. I'm doing something funky with the day-date dials, and I'm playing with this idea of a band that's extra thick, and I'll do a whole video on that once I get the mods done to it. So maybe this week coming up, I'll show it to you then. But I'll get really in depth on that because this is not the place for it. At any rate, I have my book here, which I've been making little notes in here the last couple weeks, and I haven't even looked at it. I wrote a few things down last night because I watched this flick. What is this? Youth in Revolt. Have you guys ever seen this? Now, it's kind of like your, relatively typical teenaged angst, sex movie, fun stuff. You guys remember Porky's, right? From the 80s, and, Risky Business. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I suppose, is in that category. Road Trip or Euro Trip was pretty good. I thought that was good. I just saw this for the first time. Real brief on this. We'll get back to it in a little bit because we're going to touch on some other things first. What I like about it is the kid's 16. He's a virgin, meets this chick, falls for her, and then it's like all the crazy stuff that he does for her, to win her. And it's so crazy watching it because he was a nerd. I wasn't a nerd. So when I see him going through the stuff he goes through in this movie, I'm like, well, dude, this is what you should have done in that position. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll start off here. This first one is a story, and I might have told this already, so I'm pretty sure I've told this, but it just has to do with being a good person and how you know. Because I didn't know. I mean, people tell you, you got friends, you're the guy that they want to talk to and tell their secrets to and all that, that's fine. But 2017, I went home. I think it was 2017, like the winter of 2017. My buddy's daughter was going to get married. And he has 3 kids. The girl was in the middle. I was there the day she was born. The older son had already been married. The youngest, who was also a boy, had already been married. She was going to get married. She wanted me to be there again. I took the first pictures of her, right after she was born, and I was a part of her life and their lives. I used to babysit them whenever I came into town, and I've babysat a lot of my friends' kids. There's a lot of single moms out there that have asked me to mentor their kids, especially if they were boys. You guys have heard all this before, I think. And anyhow, we're out at this bar. It's before the wedding, and all their friends are in town. And while I'm at the bar, these young people in their 20s, like early 20s, are patting me on the back and being really nice to me, and I don't recognize any of them. I realize that they're the friends or the family, and then they pointed out to me that when they were little kids, I was the only adult who played with them on the beach. I'm pretty certain I said this to you guys already in a recent video, so if I'm repeating myself, sorry. I'm just bringing it up because the note is in here, and I wanted to point this out because, if you're always just being your best, and especially when it comes to kids, I think it's important for adults to be nice to young people and have fun with them and play with them and screw with them a little bit in a way where you're letting them in on the joke. You teach them the lesson about not believing everything they hear. You interact with them on an adult level, even when they're young, and it sticks with them because you're including them in on the joke. This is a thing that I just had a thought I'm going to throw out there, and I have mentioned this, but it's been a while. It's up to us as adults to help guide young people into this world. and prepare them for it. Okay? So that means not a fantasy land, right? Not a bunch of BS, but reality. Meaning, like, hey, the world can be a dangerous, mean place. Doesn't mean you have to be, but you should be prepared for it. That's why you should know self-defense and understand you can't believe everything people tell you. People lie to you. They will take advantage of you. All these things. Women will break your fucking heart. They'll rip it out, stomp on it, cut it up, and eat it in front of you. Yeah, little lessons like that. It's good to teach that to a 5-year-old. Then they know, you know. When they get a little bit bigger, like 8 or so, whoop, bam, you teach them how to take a punch. I don't care if it's a boy or a girl. They got to know what it feels like to get punched right in the kisser. Stuff like that. But one of the first things that we do with children that is like one of the first steps for them to becoming, like being included in the club of knowing something is Santa Claus. Santa Claus. Santa Claus. Because when you're little, it's like, wow, Santa Claus. Oh my God, it's so much fun. It's so much fun to have this, watch a child go through that wonder and joy and excitement and to believe in this guy, you know, who's in the thing with the friggin' reindeer and Rudolph and all the friggin' Christmas Carol stuff and everything else that happens every year, and you decorate the house. It's all for the kids. It's all for the kids. I lived in a crazy house with my mother, but the one thing, and I thanked her for this when I was an adult. I specifically remember it because, you know, there was a lot of stuff that I would make her cry when I talked to her. Because, I mean, she was a crazy bitch, man. She was off the fucking rails most of the time. And, but the one thing she did every year was make sure we had joy at Christmas. Every year. She made that happen. And Christmas was a big thing with the family. So it's important with these kids. But at some point, the kid finds out there's no such thing as Santa Claus. I mean, there is. The spirit of it is in all of us as adults. If we're good people and we care about the kids, we're all Santa Claus, right? But I ain't some fat guy living up at the North Pole, okay? That's just how it is, right? And they eventually find out. And when they find out, it's just this, all this emotion is in them because, you know, you taught them to always tell the truth, be honest, you know, be good. All these things you taught them, and now they're like, you've been lying to me? And so it's all how you deal with it at that moment with that kid. And the reason we have a bunch of butthurt left-wingers who were like all upset about not the truth and everything now and out there with pink hats on and everything is because their parents didn't handle Santa Claus correctly. That's what it is. That's why. They're still heartbroken that there's not a Santa Claus. They're heartbroken from childhood trauma of finding out there's no Santa Claus or no Easter Bunny or all the other stuff that we lie to them about because their parents didn't handle it right. And the way to handle it is, yeah, I was fucking with you. But don't tell your sister, you know, or don't tell the other kids. Now you're part of it. This is it. Because now you're a big kid. That's it. Now that you know, now you can figure that out. That means you're no longer a baby. Right? You know that thing that we have with kids? Being a baby, being a big kid. You know, you start talking to them about, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? That sort of thing. That's when this shit starts happening. Different age for everybody, but it's around the age of 5 or 6. You know, if you get to 8 years old, you still believe in Santa. Good for you. But, you know, 8 years old, you could basically be out there in combat, you know. You're shooting people. Like, that's the real thing in many parts of the world. So you figure this shit out. But the parents should then include you in on it and be cool and be like, hey, we can't tell the other kids, right? Look at how happy they are. Let's not, why do we want to ruin that for them? You know, then you bring them in on, like, helping set up the Christmas presents and stuff like that. They're gaining knowledge. They're in on the information with the adults, and now they're participating on a level that they've just jumped a tier in their progression as a human being. You understand what I'm saying? So lying to your kids when they're young is great. You gotta lie to them. You gotta lie to them. But once they figure it out, then you tell them the truth. and you let him in on it, and you explain it to him. It's the same thing when you have to discipline him. If you got to crack one once in a while, you don't just beat your kid. First of all, I'm not condoning beating your kid. I know what that's like. Nobody should be doing it. But, you can pinch him a little bit. Once in a while, if you got to give him a smack, whatever. But you have to tell him, how many times have I told you? It's for your own good. I love you. I don't want to have to do this. You tell them why you did it. If you do that and you don't tell them why, that's what fucks a kid's head up. Then they start thinking they did something wrong and everything else, like it's all their fault. No. You have to have a conversation with them. Kids can understand a lot more than you give them credit for. All right. I just want to throw all that out there. Basically, let me know I was a good person at that time. Like, oh, I guess I was doing the right thing when I was younger. Okay. I wrote this down. By the way, these are notes for me that are just like, this is an abbreviated form of me getting an idea out there in my head so I don't forget. This is not a complete joke or a complete story. This is just little notes so I can be like, oh yeah, that's the thing. And maybe I will write the whole thing down later. I've gotten some criticism here. Like, you should write this down and keep it to yourself until you do this up on stage or something because you don't want people to steal it from you. Well, if I'm talking about it here, right now, whatever the date is, was the 13th, a Sunday, July 13th, 2025, here it is. Here's the evidence of it. If you guys see some comic doing it, you can be like, ah, that's Mike's stuff. We have the date, timestamp right there. I'm just saying. I wrote this down. I wrote, when a woman asks you a serious question, like an obscure kind of question, don't answer it. All right? Because there's a 50-50 shot. It's good or bad. Like, it's not worth it. And the example I wrote was this woman, client of mine, who we actually had some feelings for one another. It was obvious. It was too complicated for me, her life situation. But at one point early on, after re-entering her life again, after not talking to her for quite some time, after doing work for these people years earlier, it was just me and her talking one day, and she asked me, she goes, what do you want? Do you need to have like a real relationship, or could you just have a good time? I shouldn't have answered that question. I should have been like, well, it depends on how we get along. Anything that would have came off the top of my head would have been better than going, well, I prefer to meet somebody I can have a relationship with, which is what I said, which was the wrong thing to say. Looking back on it, if I would have said, well, if you're asking me if you want to fuck, let's just fuck. I'm pretty certain she would have just done it right then and there. We would have gotten over with. It would have been a much funner time the next 2.5 years or so. So, because they get that in their head, and they might not be prepared for that. It doesn't have anything to do with this specific question, but in general, women have a thing in their mind. They got all these criteria that they think they need to have at that point in their life. But what do we know about women? Man, they could change their mind, boom, like that. It's their prerogative, women's prerogative, to change their mind. So man, you got women who are friends, right? You could talk to them and be like, I hate that bitch. She's a bitch. She said this, she did that. I'll never talk to her again. And they tell you the whole story, and you're like, yeah, I'm on your side. I agree with you. Fuck that bitch. And then you see her a week later, and she's out having drinks with the chick again, and they're best friends all over again. And you're sitting here going, what the hell's going on? That's women. All right? You get a man to that point, it's going to take us a time. If we're going to get back together, it's going to take a time. And when we do, we will make sure we school everybody on why. Yeah, he pissed me off. I wanted to kick his ass. I couldn't talk to him for a while. Okay. It ain't going to be next week, dude. You know what I mean? It might be a year, 2 years, 5 years later. I had one guy, 18 years, I didn't talk to him. So, you understand what I'm saying? We're different. Because normally, when it starts happening, it's like, hey, bro, whoa. Let's calm down with that bullshit right there. And we'll deal with it right then and there. If they can't get solved that quick, it is more serious. Like, one guy just ain't seeing it. There's other shit going on in his life. He can't focus on fixing that with his buddy right now because there's so many other stresses going on. Whatever the fuck it is. It's a different kind of thing. But women, on a dime. Within hours sometimes. They could just do a 180. There's no rhyme nor fucking reason to it. that's the way their brains work. So you can't count on anything with them. So if they're asking you something, in a serious moment, kind of, and it's kind of a serious thing, and in your mind, it's like, ooh, if I say this, there's that. If I say that, there's this. Then don't say either of those two things. Create some levity, make a joke. Uh, your shoe is untied. Boy, are those new earrings? Did you dye your hair? Like whatever you gotta do. Like, you know, I want to answer that question, but I just noticed. I never noticed that little. Has that dimple always been there? Whatever it is that could, giving them a compliment, making them laugh, that sort of thing to get them off of that, that's great. If they come back to it, by the way, now you know it's fucking serious, and now you know you really can't answer that fucking question. Unless you've got a definitive thing, and that's how it is. Maybe, by the way, this doesn't have anything to do with, I was thinking of it in terms of like, hey, maybe you're interested in sleeping with her at some point. But in reality, that's one small segment of it, because it could be some woman you're just friends with and she's considering you for some other thing, introducing you to somebody or a job position or something like that. You got to be very careful about this stuff. You just got to be careful. I'm just saying. I've said the wrong thing many times, or I've done the wrong thing. We're going to get to that when we get to this movie. I got a funny story for you. What else is in the book? Yeah, I'm giving you gems here. Okay. I don't know why this came up. I think I was watching something, and I got a couple different things here. These are two gross things. I think I watched something, and it just made me think, like, what's the grossest thing you ever saw? And there's a whole bunch of them. But this will be about... It's kind of scary to talk about this because I'm in strangers' homes all the time. And I'm going to get into a whole story on here if we've got time for it. I hope we do, about why I don't snoop. I'm not a snooper. I don't go in people's homes and go through their shit. You know why? Because you might not like what you find. I learned that as a kid. You'll hear that story in a moment. But when I'm in a perfect stranger's house, I definitely don't do that. That's the wrong thing to do, man. You have to respect people's privacy. And when they like you and you got the keys to their house and you're in and out of their house and they're not around, they've got to be able to trust you. If they can't trust you, well, you're not going to keep getting business, So I'm very professional in that manner. At the same time, you're in and out of people's homes and you see how they live. You see things. And you have to keep that to yourself as well because, that's their personal stuff, man. It's like being a doctor or a psychiatrist or something, right? They're not supposed to be telling everybody what their clients are telling them. It's the same thing. So I try to keep that stuff to myself. I haven't even shared a lot of it here until now. So one of the grossest things that ever happened, that I ever saw in a client's home, which was a mansion here in the neighborhood, and these people are not from here, and they're really wealthy, real estate. And I think the daughter is an actress. At the time, she was in a real big show, good looking chick. Mom was hot. Mom was always just, giving me money. The dad was the guy. He made all the money, and he was pretty friggin' cool. It was a, interesting situation. Anyhow, they had this guest house, which, it's so funny. The structure, it's a mansion. It's a big yard. They had this structure moved from one part of their yard to another part of their yard so they could put in a swimming pool. They have the old garage, and above that they've got an apartment. And this is another whole separate building that they have here that they completely redid and made new. And it was pretty amazing. It was 2 bedrooms, big, giant party room, living room with the kitchen right there. And she wasn't happy with any of it. And it was only a few years old. And she hired me to come in to help her with redesigning and building it. But the first step was basically to rip everything out. And I was having some issues with her because she actually hired a designer. And I kept telling her, you don't need to hire the designer. And because that starts going against things. Because I don't want to get into this whole conversation about designers and my problem with them. At any rate, I had to work in one of the bedrooms, and I was told that the girl, the daughter, had a boyfriend who lived there for like 6 months or a year before I came in to do all this remodeling. So I knew somebody had been using this room for a while. And one of the things I had to do was apply moldings to the walls. So I was basically like putting a picture frame on a wall for no reason that's going to get painted the same color as the wall. Designers. It's fine though. I don't mind that look. So I start doing it, and I'm looking at these walls, and there's something on these walls. I'm like flicking it off like with a scraper knife, and I realize it's boogers. It's fucking boogers, man. Hundreds of boogers. And if you're laying in the bed, most of the boogers are on the right wall, the ceiling, and these are 9-foot, almost 10-foot ceiling, really high ceilings, and that behind the headboard up on the wall there in the ceiling, and then a few over here. So this guy was definitely a right-handed booger picker. Okay, this guy was going in here like this and flicking them. He's doing like this and he's flicking them. He's doing like this and he's flicking it. Every day he's picking his nose and he's flicking it. Laying in bed every morning, every night, picking his nose and flicking boogers, not caring where they go, man. And they were all over. I had to tell her. Once I realized, like, this is booger, I went out and told her. I was like, hey, look at this. There's hundreds of boogers on this friggin' wall. On this guy, if booger flicking was a sport in the Olympics, gold medal winner, probably. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe there's a thing. I guess what you would do is you would do this thing where you create more kind of mucus in your body, and then you run through different types of dust, because you would eventually learn the chemical makeup of the perfect booger, where you pick the booger and there's enough weight to it and enough, just the right amount of mucus to it, where when you flick it, it comes off the finger. Because, if there's too much of the sticky mucus, it sticks on your finger. It doesn't flick off. You gotta like wipe it on something and then flick it off the leg kind of thing, because you got to get some of the mucus, the stickiness off the booger. But like this guy was picking his nose and flicking it. It was going perfect and just bam, plastering on the fucking wall, man. Disgusting. Disgusting, I tell you. But you never know. I mean, booger flicking could be a sport. Is booger flicking a sport? Pause the video right now. Look that up. There's probably a video on YouTube about competitive booger flicking. It's probably on a channel on cable access. Remember cable access even exists anymore? It's just YouTube now. Cable. I'm dating myself now. A whole flash of cable access shows gross things I've seen on cable access, like in New York City and stuff. And I was house sitting in New York City once, and the UHF channels, and the screen is full, and it literally looks like this on the screen is what I'm seeing. And when it pulls out, and this is disgusting, fair warning, you might want to pause this or fast forward if you're too sensitive. If you're too sensitive, like, you barely got through the booger flicking story. You barely got through it. Now you're going to hear about a fisting story, because the camera pulls out and there's a guy and he's got his whole hand and arm inside another dude's butthole, and it's on television. Of course I watched. I had to watch. It wasn't a titillating sexual thing. It was like a fucking car wreck, man. Because you're just like, first of all, you're like, the thing comes on and I just see that close up. I'm like, what? I thought there was something wrong. I couldn't understand what was going on. You have no idea what you're seeing. It's too close up. And the camera pulls back and I'm like, oh my God, that guy's got his whole fist and arm in this guy's asshole. What's going to happen next? Yeah, is he gonna pull out a gerbil or something? Is it, you don't even think of it as a sexual thing. You're just flabbergasted by the fact that that's even possible. It's just crazy, man. So yeah, there's another gross one here. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but I wrote it as a note because something happened and I don't remember what it was now. But you guys know the one thing I'm prejudiced against is fat people. I bring it up all the time. Here he is. Oh shit, he's going to fat shame again. By the way, you're welcome. I've gotten several notes from people a lot of ladies, your sweethearts, who are telling me that I'm motivating them to get in shape and eat better. I'm not even kidding. In the last month, not a lot, 3 or 4 notes I've gotten from different people saying, I'm on it. You've motivated me, because they don't want to be disgusting fat bodies. That's not a bad, that's a term we use in the Marines. That's what we refer to other disgusting fat people as. Disgusting fat bodies. You don't want to be that. And here's a reason why you don't want to be that. Because there's a lot of large people out there, and I don't hate you as a person. A lot of you were nice people, if you're even still watching. The booger thing was bad enough. The fisting thing was bad enough. Is there anybody still watching? Are you still here? Why are you here? Because here's the thing. When you are large enough, you've got to live. There's things that you have to do every single day, multiple times a day, where you've got to deal with this fat. And it's a thing. How do you, once you got to that, if you got to lift your belly up out of the way to get to your dick so you can take a piss, that's crazy. You let yourself go that far? There are guys out there that haven't seen their dick in decades, man. Unless they're standing in front of a mirror and holding up a belly. That is crazy. Crazy. Why? You want to know the best motivation to get in shape? And I learned this from doing P90X originally. They tell you the first thing to do is strip down to your underwear and take pictures of yourself. Get in your underwear tonight. Take pictures of yourself. You don't have to send them to anybody. Just look at them and go, oh, shit. Tomorrow, you'll start eating better and you'll go for a walk, at least. Maybe try attempt a push-up or something. That's all it takes, man. Look at yourself. Be honest with yourself. And this all stems from... I had this girlfriend in high school. Boy, I have her on a pedestal. And she had a friend who was really pretty. And she would get really fat, man. And then she'd lose 150 pounds or more. So every time I saw her, I never knew. It was a crazy... I'm not exaggerating. It was that drastic. And I lived, half a block from the beach at the time. And one day there's a knock on... This is not high school. This is, I was in my early 20s. Working in the nightclubs and all that. And I get a knock on the door, and it's my friend and her friend. And this is in her fat phase. And they asked to use the bathroom. No problem. They used the bathroom. Now, they had been at a bar where they had access to the beach. And they'd stamp your hand, right? If you can drink, if you're 21 or over. And there's a smiley face that said, have a nice day on it. I bring this up because later that afternoon, I go into the bathroom, and I look down at the toilet seat, and there's a mark on the toilet seat. So I go down and I look, and it's that stamp in reverse. What does that mean? That means that this chick is so fat, she has to spread her ass cheeks. She's got to spread her ass to sit down and sit on her hands to keep her ass far enough apart. She doesn't have to piss or shit all over herself. All right, if you've reached that stage of obesity, that is a hint and a half to eat a fucking salad, man. That's all I'm saying. That's the part of it that I don't understand. Maybe you can help me out. I'm depressed, and God forbid you lost somebody close to you, or a pet or something, or you got some allergy to certain foods. Whatever it is, I get it, but you get to that point. I was friends with Ralphie May. We weren't best bros. I was really just getting to know him. And when I met him, he was about to go in to get his lap band surgery. I met him because I had a motorcycle wreck. I know I've told the story before. It should have killed me. That was a bad wreck. And a guy ran a red light, T-boned me. I flew through the air like a rag doll, according to witnesses, hit the ground, rolled another 30 feet. It was fucked up. I opened my eyes, and people are like, oh, he's alive. I get up. And this girl gets in my face, and she's trying to tell me I'm in shock and everything. I'm like, look, baby, you don't know me. I know exactly what just happened. Somebody get this boot off my foot. I could feel my foot swelling. But I was directing people what to do. It was all good. She was Ralphie May's personal assistant. And it's funny. This is good. I've told this before. I'll tell it again. I'm just not going to get into the weeds on all the details to make it a super long story for the sake of time. We're already running out of time. I got a bunch of stories here I wanted to get to. But the funny thing is that she called me up and she says, "Hey, I told Ralphie about you. He said bring you up, and they wanted me to solve some problem." And I went up there and I solved it. I made these cool things, and he was real happy about it. But while I was there, I noticed he had crappy furniture in the house. He was living in a house that was in the hills, built on stilts, right? So it went over the cliff. And I told her, I said, "You tell Ralphie, if he wants it, I'll make him a dining room table strong enough for him to fuck on." Because he was over 500 pounds at the time. And I get a call from her the next day. "I told Ralphie what you said. He wants to meet you." So she told him that. It cracked him up, and he's like, "I got to meet this guy." So I went up there, and I met him 3, 4, maybe 5 times. It's hard to remember. It was a long time ago. Multiple times. One time I was up there, and she thought her kid had eaten a bunch of aspirin, and I had to get on my motorcycle to go down and get her, look for Apotac or something it's called, to make the kid vomit. And I couldn't get it, and by the time I got back up there, she realized he didn't do it in the first place. But Ralphie was very impressed with the fact that I jumped on the bike and tried to solve the problem and everything. And he was always cracking jokes. He had a bong stashed in every room of the house. He was funny as fuck, man. He was a really funny guy. But there was a guy, super huge, did the lap band surgery, and after that we didn't talk. Other things happened. I think that's why I guess he got divorced and all this other stuff, and then he was dead. I think he kept eating even after lap band surgery. It's really sad. So it's interesting to me that people will let that happen, and I don't understand how you don't see it happening. And I've been big myself. I never got like that fat. At one time I was probably about 230, which is big for me. And I saw pictures of myself, because I did get lost in it a little bit. And I saw these pictures and I was like, okay, that's it. And that was 15 years ago. And ever since then, once I lost that weight, I've pretty much kept that off for the most part. But once I start seeing it again, I start calling myself disgusting fat body, and then I start doing something about it. So it's just self-discipline. All right. I've offended a good 20% of my audience. Okay. What else do we got? Oh, the snooping thing. Okay, I'll tell you this story. Wait a minute. Should I tell you that story? Or should I just get into this film with these funny stories? I will tell you this. This is just a quick one. Pets, the ultimate cock blocker. Guys, you're considering going out with a girl, she's got a dog or a cat or something. Cats, not as much, I suppose, but dogs, the ultimate cock blocker. Even if you like the animals, you still got to deal with the animals when you're trying to have sex, man. I was once kind of dating. It was my buddy's sister. He actually friggin' pushed me into it. Attractive lady. Owns a house down here. She had like 4 fucking greyhounds, man. You know what it's like? Trying to screw some chick who's got 4 fucking greyhounds around her 24/7. That shit ain't easy, man. It ain't easy. And then when she wants it and you're in the room, like, you can't fuck with dogs in the room. I can't. Maybe you can. I can't do it. I got 4 dogs coming up, sniffing at me and everything. I one time was with a girl. She had one of those wiener dogs. I'm on the bed with her. This one was really smoking hot. Oh my God. Well, she was a stripper. And we're sitting there, and we're doing it, we're messing around. I feel something. I look down, the dog licked my dick. This is disgusting. I had to grab the dog and toss it across the room, man. So I don't want animals involved. Humans should not have animals involved when you're fucking. They shouldn't even be in the same fucking room, man. No animals in the room. But okay, let's say the animals aren't in the room. Let's say she's cool. I get it. No, okay, whatever. We'll get the dogs out of the room. Well, now the dogs, you're trying to do it. You know how hard it is to get into a rhythm and make everything good when you got dogs scratching at the door and sniffing and barking and everything else. It breaks my fucking concentration, man. And I'm not going to fuck you with earplugs in, because I have to hear you. I have to hear that you're enjoying this thing. And if I'm trying to block out the dog, the whole thing is bad. And that woman that asked me the question, if I wanted a serious relationship or just to have a good time, she went and got herself a dog and never trained that thing. And that dog was the ultimate cock blocker, man. I hate that fucking dog. I hate that fucking dog. All right. I'm just saying. Women and dogs. Dogs are the ultimate cock blocker. All right. Let's get into, boy, I don't know if I could do this. This one thing I want to talk about, it could be too long of a story. Maybe I should just save this one. I think I should save it because it's gonna when I'm descriptive on this one, it's gonna get kind of disgusting. You got something to look forward to. Maybe I'll do it this week. All right, it'll be on why I don't snoop. Look for that one. Why I'm not a snooper. Yeah, I'll tell you the story about that one. All right. Age rule. I can't. Oh, I can't read my own writing is what the problem is. It's just a funny quip I thought of, which is, I've never been an ageist. When I was young, I went out with women that were in their 40s and 50s. As an older guy, there's been times where I've been with much younger women, half my age or less now. Doesn't happen very often now. I don't even leave the house anymore. But here's the thing. At this age now, I had to come up with this. I came up with this the other day. I got a rule for the age. The youngest. Bottom line. I cannot go out with you if I have laundry older than you are. I think that's a pretty good one. I think that's it. I think that's a good rule because I got some clothes that are like 30 years old. I'm just saying. Can't have clothes older than you are. And now I was getting into house parties and stuff, and that had to do with this movie I watched, which I guess we'll talk about real quick. Oh, man, that's another good one. There's some good stories in here, too. In this movie, he meets this girl. He walks her home from the store with groceries. They get to her house, and she's laying out all the signals, man. Where's your parents? They're at church. So we're alone. Yes. Would you like a tour? You know where the tour is going to end. In her room. And she's sitting on the bed. And he's trying to play all smooth. Man, by the time I was already, 16, I was already in it. Knee deep in it. For a couple years by then. So for me, it was like the girl sitting on the bed. I'm like, I would have been on the bed right next to her. Like, oh, this is where the magic happens, huh? Something. Make her laugh, whatever. And, she brought you in there. They want it as much as you do. When you're young, you just don't know that, I guess. I knew it because I found that out. You know when I found out? When I was 9 years old. And I did this kid's move because I didn't know how to react to it. It was this girl, Francine. She lived a few doors down. And I'd been over her house before. And she told me her dad had dirty magazines. We went up looking for her one time. And so I knew this was on her brain. I was 8 or 9 years old. It's hard to remember. 9 was 4th grade. So yeah, 8, about to be 9, right around that age. And this one day I'm over at her house and she's talking to me. And she's got one of those jumpsuits on with the snaps in the crotch, And I think she was a year or two older than me. And women, girls, she was fucking children. They mature faster. Maybe she was a few years older than me because she had a body on her. She already had boobs, and I ended up seeing that she had pubic hair. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff. I don't even think I had a pube at that time. All I know is I'm sitting on the sofa. She'd had me over that house several times, was very suggestive several times, but I didn't understand what was going on because I was still a child. I didn't know what was going on. And I'm sitting on the sofa, and she puts one foot up on the arm of the sofa next to me. So her foot, knee, thigh, crotch, leg, crotch, crotch is right here. It's right here. It's right there. And she's like going to unsnap this thing. And I'm like, I gotta go home. I just got up and went out. It was such a flabbergasting moment in time. I just didn't know how to deal with it, man. And that's what this kid was doing at 16. I just thought it was funny watching that movie last night. Like, oh my God. All the signs. But it's a movie. They're building this up. And it's so funny because I'm watching it I'm trying to think about this movie logically. Because the bottom line is, They live in separate towns far away from one another. And the hoops that this kid goes through to be with this chick and the stuff that happens, I'm watching it like, there's no way out of this. There's no way out of that. There's no way. And I'm like, it's a movie. They're going to come up with a way out of it. In the end, he gets the girl. I just ruined the ending for you. But it's worth watching. I mean, the acting is really good. And some of the best. Steve Buscemi is in it. Ray Liotta is in it. Zach Galifianakis is in it, and he plays a guy totally against character, in my opinion, for who he is as a person. He was amazing. The best joke ever is in this movie. The best gag is apparently this Zach guy. He's screwing this kid's mom, and she's like 50 and hot. You know, it's so funny, and she feels bad about herself because she's at that age. She's going to take any guy that will give her attention, and she says as much in the film. And so she's with Zach Galifianakis, who's just this loser dirtbag guy, but he's boning her, she's getting it, she's happy. And apparently he sold some shitty piece of shit car to a bunch of guys in the Navy. And these 3 or 4 Navy guys show up at the door one day with the broken down car going, hey, we paid $900 for this, it didn't even make it home, we want our money back. And Zach ain't there at the time. So the kid, whatever he says, he doesn't like the guy, so... Point is, they leave the car there, they spray paint on the car, we want our money back. And now, this is Zach Galifianakis, Jesus Christ with these Greek names. These friggin' Greek last names, man. What the hell? You guys know I didn't even say my own name right till I was in my 30s. That's another story. So, he decides to take the kid and the mom to some other place on a little mini vacation, hoping this will all blow over. When they come back to the house weeks later, presumably, the car's not in the driveway. He says, see, told you they took the car, it's all over. They go in the house, the entire car is in the living room. There's only one way to get that car in that living room. And he says it. He's like, it was all taken apart. They popped the hood. Everything's connected. The windshield wiper fluid is even still in the windshield wiper container. That is... hands down one of the best gags ever, man, if you could pull that off. Because she's like, it would have taken an army of guys to take that apart. He goes, or the Navy. What a gag, man. What a gag. I remember when I was a kid, and I lived for about a year or so, maybe less than that. Freshman year I did in a high school up in New York. That was the first year I lived with my dad, which is the first year I started living alone because he wasn't home. And we lived next to this other house, and these people were renting it, and they were foreigners. I think they were Indians or something. They were nice people, but, you know, we were just mean American kids, so, you know, we screwed with everybody. We used to shoot bottle rockets at the cops in the town. No joke. Crazy stuff. That was when we would have fake fights in the middle of the street and in this one intersection. And the person would get out of the car to break up the fight, and another kid would run in the car and steal the car. And when he turned around to run for the car, the other 2 kids who were fighting would run up and disappear. And then would joyride around somebody's car all night. It was fucked up. We were doing crazy shit. And I just remember there was the 2 driveways were next to one another. And there was a curb that separated them. Just a curb. 4-inch wide curb that stood up about 4 or 5 inches. That was it. And there was just something about one of the kids had a problem with these people that were living in this house with their car specifically. And it was something about parking. I don't remember what the whole story was, but, you know, there's a house that I was living in, 3 or 4 stories. This old guy Nick owned it. We lived up on the 3rd floor, me and my dad. And 2 driveways, and then the next house. And we were, you know, drinking beer and whatnot, high school kids. And a bunch of us picked up the back. It was a little sports car, like a Toyota hatchback or something. It was light. So like 4 of us picked it up, and we moved that car. I wish I would have saw how they dealt with this. We moved that car so it was this way across both the driveways between the 2 houses. Like, imagine coming out of your house. Like, how do you get out of that one? You can't K-turn your ass out of that one, man. You need 4 or 5 guys to pick up the back end of the car and move it around. I mean, it was crazy. Anyhow, I'll leave you with that. It's been close to an hour here. I don't even know what the hell I talked about. I didn't even get to the story I wanted to talk about because I was too busy telling you the disgusting booger story and making a lot of you hate me because of the disgusting fat body stuff. Fat shaming, look out. New roommates move, not roommate. I got a new person moving in here. I guess they're going to start moving in tomorrow. It's a female. She has a little dog, I've been told. I've been told the dog's on good behavior. It's very old. I'm not happy about this, though, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully she'll be cool. The crazy one moved out. The one I told you about. You guys heard why normies can't be friends with loonies. Look for that video here on the channel. What a crazy chick that was. Out of her fucking mind, and I'm glad she's gone. Another chick. So we'll see how this works out. And I'm going out of town this week, so I'll be driving out Wednesday or Thursday. So I've been looking at the weather at the house. I have a house in Arizona, southeastern Arizona, not far from Tombstone, in Bisbee, little town called Huachuca City. And this week coming up, it's going to be like in the low 80s, and it's monsoon season, so it'll be raining a lot, and it's beautiful there when it's raining. So I don't know how long I'll be gone. I'm playing it by ear. I want to hang out with my sister and my niece and meet some of the friends that they've made lately. My niece has been doing jiu-jitsu, and the guy who owns the jiu-jitsu school lives in my sister's complex. That's how they met, at some swimming pool. And he saw the potential that my niece has. She's fit. I mean, we all had muscle on us when we were young. This kid's no different. My sister was the same way. When I'm at the house, she's doing pull-ups and stuff, and I've always given her good advice on working out and all that. So now she's rolling around, man. I've seen some of the videos, and she's actually got talent. So I told my sister, I said, look, that guy will teach her how to roll around. I'll teach her the dirty stuff, you know. I'll teach her really good striking, inside stuff, dirty fighting, street fighting stuff. Stuff you can't use in the school, you know. It's the thing. It's a thing. And make her realize the difference between street fighting and rolling around on mats, because there's a big freaking difference there. But that'll be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. And my hope is I want to drive up on the mountain again, Car Canyon. The last time I was up there, I don't know if it was last time, but you guys might remember I did a Sunday night chat video with my niece. And we parked at the campground there. And it seems like that's the top, but it's not. If you do a little hike, you can get to this plateau on this higher elevation situation. And when you're there, there's still mountains that are even higher than that you can walk to. And it's a whole other ecosystem. You actually, on your way to the top, a little more than 2/3 of the way up, you go through like a forest area where it looks like the East Coast, right? Because it's all elevation. And you get to the top, it's a little sparser, but there's still a lot of trees and everything. I really want to investigate the tops of those mountains, man. So I want to go up there, maybe camp out for at least a night, maybe two, in the van at the camp spot, and then like spend my days trekking these mountains. It's dangerous. There's drug trafficking going on there. They want you to be armed. I told you guys before, I met a border person up there already. They ask you if you're armed, and they recommend that you are. Because the only people willing to cross those mountains are men who are criminals with a criminal record. The women and children are not trying to cross. Nobody's trying to cross the border right now, but that area, because it's known to be a drug mule area, it can still be going on. So it could be a little bit dangerous. Plus, if we get monsoons up there, who knows what could happen. It's definitely most people would avoid doing what I'm going to do, or I'm planning to do, but I'm planning to do it anyhow. So while I'm there, I'll do that. I'll probably go to Bisbee, see some friends there. I got a present for a friend of mine. I got to remember to bring that. Make some more connections with that for future work there. And then if I can figure out the timing, if it makes sense, I'll drive to Safford, see my buddy George, who I was in the Corps with. You guys remember that whole thing with George. And then I'll just continue up north to like the 40 Flagstaff area. And then I'll maybe say hi to my brother in Williams, and then just basically do a loop and come home. And then I got to get to work. You know, last week I did this video, and a woman made a comment. She's in Long Beach, and she said she'd like me to come down and look at something at her house. And I responded to the comment, never heard from her. So if you're watching this week, whoever you are, you know, Mike@MikeZDesign.com. Just send me an email. And I have no problems going down there and taking a look at it. she's under the impression I don't like to drive that far. But have tools will travel is not a joke. I mean, I was just in Monterey. I've driven all the way to New York, the state of New York, to do jobs. So the issue is when I do that, I stay at that location. So yes, the idea of commuting every day to Long Beach to do a project doesn't appeal to me because with traffic, could be an hour or more each way. But if we could work that out and the fuel's covered, or if I could crash out in the van a couple nights in a row if she's cool with it, whatever it takes, I'm willing to make it work because she does seem cool. I looked at a couple things this week I'm not going to do because I don't like the people. I'm a weirdo, man. I mean, we all need to make money. We all need money to grease the wheels, right, of our lives. But if I don't get a good vibe from people, or I could just tell that it's not going to be a good working environment, they're never going to hear from me again. And I do that all the time. I just like you get the kind of, I mean, we had the whole thing about the electricians this past week, right? Dirty, lazy electricians. I did those videos. You got to hire somebody to get the work done. So maybe you're not as selective as you'd like to be because you've been putting something off or it's really serious. You got to get it done. Plumbers, electricians, HAVC guys, your air conditioning and heating, you can't pick those guys. You got to get whoever you can get to get over there as soon as possible to get that taken care of. I'm not necessarily a need guy. I'm a want guy. That's the difference. And while I can do home improvement type work, I'm going to do it on a higher level. I could do that. I could do built-ins. I like doing that, because I can make decent money on a built-in, custom built-in shelving or whatever. I'd rather be at the shop making a piece of furniture. I'd rather be making dining room tables and custom coffee tables and all that sort of thing for people because that's my super strong suit. And that's what I would prefer to be doing. But I got to do different things to bring in the money, man. So, yeah. Hopefully, if you're watching this, reach out again. Because let's get it going, baby. Maybe when I get back. So when I get back, I got to start hustling again and get some coin coming in. So suggestions are always appreciated. Put them down here below. And that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Woo! I know I went off the rails a little bit on this one. I got to watch it back later and see what the hell I said to you guys. I never know what's going to come out of me. That's it. Be good. Be good human beings. Do somebody a favor. Pay somebody a compliment. Make another human being feel good. Try not to point out how fat they are. It's not making anybody feel good. But you own a fucking mirror, right? I apologize. It's okay. I'll catch you in the next one.